And once I've got this on, is setting up your meeting for Facebook Live. Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Apparently this is saying, which is fantastic.
I can see live on Facebook as well on my screen. So there you go.
Can you?
Yeah.
Brilliant. In that case, this is working. And I'm going to put a shout out to everyone and say this was not the intention to be using Zoom to live stream, because I've got streaming software which I had all set up and all tested, and it was working perfectly yesterday. And now this morning it doesn't want to connect to anything, which is always the go, isn't it? But we do have a backup. Let's hope we have a backup anyway.
Sure.
So I want to welcome John Vinehall from Archery South Australia, who has really graciously and at really short notice, and having to drag him away from the tractor, has agreed to come on and to do an interview prior to our Pat Coughlin video, which at this moment in time, what I may need to do is to actually load it up rather than show it live. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I think coming via Zoom, it will be a bit choppy, but we'll see how we go with it in a minute. But John, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for taking me away from the tractor. I appreciate it.
Oh, that's no dramas. Look, I always found when I was working on mechanical things, sometimes I needed that time just to walk away and think. So that I could get things done.
It's starting to get a bit warm out there, so I was looking for an excuse not to keep doing it. So thank you.
And nothing broken, I hope.
No. It's I'm actually on Kangaroo Island, so we have a holiday house down here, and I thought last week that it'd be a great time to take a couple of days off and come down here, but I ended up stuck down here. So taking the opportunity to get the tractor ready for fishing later in the year.
And was that a jump the restrictions before they came in? Or
well, no,
was it a pre-planned
down here I was just coming down here for a couple of days, but yes, ended up stuck down here. So
which
is
not
places to get stuck.
I was going to say, it's not much of a stack, is it?
No, exactly.
I can think of worse places.
Indeed.
Oh, that's brilliant. And look, I know this is quite short notice. We had a very brief conversation, and I know there was people out there thinking that a brief conversation for me might last an hour, but this was really a brief conversation about what we were going to talk about and the sort of things we were going to discuss. And what I alluded to was that you've obviously just become the president of Archery South Australia, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done. And
yes.
I guess, what's coming? What's your thoughts on that?
All right. Well, I actually thought I'd start maybe by just giving you a little bit of a background on me, just to, I suppose, introduce myself. And I do know a number of your members. So obviously I shoot at Southern Vales on Mondays at Indoor. So I certainly have interacted with quite a few of the members there. I also am my home club is Eden. I shoot at Adelaide. I shoot at Victor on Wednesdays as well. I occasionally get out to Cressy and the farm, and every now and then I shoot down on Kangaroo Island as well. So I certainly have got into a lot of the clubs and shoot quite regularly around the place. I'm a compound shooter. Been into archery for around about 3 years. I got into archery, as many people do, through my kids. My son decided he wanted to go and do archery, so I thought I'd go along and try it out as well. And about 3 months later, he got bored and moved on, and I'm still here. So it seems to be a pretty common story I hear from a lot of people. But certainly, I've been in archery for about 3 years now, and obviously that's a relatively short amount of time compared to a lot of other people. But certainly, I've been getting into it boots and all, and obviously the Archery SA board and now as the president is the latest iteration of that. So that's I suppose a little bit about me. In terms of what's coming, I think obviously a lot of what Archery SA does is the I suppose machinations of making sure that everything keeps working from an archery point of view in the state. But I think, if I look at what my priorities are that I hope I will bring to the position, I think firstly, communications is a really important factor for me. As a member of the archery community, I find a lot of people don't feel like they have a good grasp on what's going on at the state and national and international level. And I think certainly one of my objectives is to make sure that we bridge some of those gaps around communication. So one of those initiatives will probably be a president's forum that I want to set up. And that's going to be an opportunity for, I think, to get feedback from the clubs. I'm getting the armour on ready for the deluge of advice that I'm going to get, but I think that's a really important thing for us to do. And I think getting that feedback, both from a Archery SA point of view, hearing what's going on in the clubs and what's important, but also so that archers and well, through their presidents, get some feedback on what's going on in Archery SA as well. So
that's brilliant, by the way, because I got to say, I was talking to someone the other day and said, it'd be really good if we had a president's like committee meeting or something, just to get together to all talk, because we all talk in our own little bubbles, and we talk to the people that we see, but having that official channel, and you're absolutely right, communication is one of those things that it's good and bad. But good communication helps everybody focus on what's going on.
Exactly, and I think it's really important. And I do expect that certainly in the earlier forums, I'm probably going to be told a lot about what people think is wrong. But hopefully we can get it beyond that and move on to what's important and how we grow the sport. And I think that's really, really an important thing. The other thing which those of you who are on Pull and Twang would be fully aware of is the search for a state ground. And I wanted to spend a little bit of time on this one because I know it's an area that a lot of people have an opinion on. And
quite emotional too, as well. So I think I'm quite an emotional opinion too in some of this. So yeah. I think that's a great idea. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think, look, so just to, I suppose, set the scene, why do we need a state ground? Because to be honest, that's probably one of the things that I get asked the most. And I think we've been looking for a state ground as Archery SA for the best part of 40 years. And the reason for that is that we need to be able to find a place that we can concentrate. So certainly, obviously we use Milo at the moment, and Milo is a great place to go and shoot, and it's nice and central. But the reality is that shooting state events at a state ground is probably only one of the criteria that we're really trying to gain out of building a state archery centre. And I think some of the other things that are really important is we need to come up with a place that provides the facilities that allows us to go after some national events. So starting to bring some national and potentially international events to South Australia. We need obviously to have a level of facilities that matches that. And then the other thing which is really important, I think, is providing a centralised focus for archer development. So, obviously we've got a number of very good archers in the state, and we do have some capabilities around their training. But I think what having a state ground will do for us is allow us to focus on making that happen at a state level. And I suppose the other thing that I quite often get asked is, why don't we just put all the money into the clubs? Because, we should be developing the clubs individually. And I think the real challenge that I see with that is we don't have a lot of money. So, much as everybody thinks Archery SA has got lots and lots of money in the bank, and we should be sharing that out, we actually, when you start looking at it at a give it all to the clubs type level, we don't have a lot of money. So the challenge really is, how do we get the best investment in archery across the entire state and try and bring that to a centralised focal point. And so that's really, I suppose, the main objectives that we're trying to get out of a state ground. And obviously, once we've got somewhere that we can call our own, then we can start to invest and build that out and build the infrastructure that we need. So that's sort of where we...
And to pick up on that, and to pick up on that as well, I've just got a question from Kate, who said it's that what facilities are we going to have up there? Because she said that it would be great to have somewhere to practice clout regularly, So what sort of area is proposed up there? And I would say
Right.
this is proposed at the moment, isn't it?
Well, I was going to get to that. So, yeah, obviously we've got the proposal to look at Halloran Hill and Majors Road, and that's certainly at the moment looking like a really good option. But just, I suppose, to give you a really quick update on where that's at. So, it is a preferred option, and I think what we are looking for out of that, the process we're going through at the moment is that we have provided a submission to the people that basically are selecting. They have told us that they were very impressed with our submission, and that the next step will be that they'll come back to us probably in the December timeframe to talk about next steps. And so just to talk about what next steps would be, we haven't done any of the commercials about how that's going to look in terms of how much it's going to cost us to lease that location. We haven't done any of the other criteria that might come after that, but we're certainly going down that path, and it looks really promising. And I think as a board, we're really hopeful that that solution will work out. In terms of the actual venue, the venue, I think from memory, is around about 300 metres long. So we certainly will be able to shoot clout there, and we'll obviously be able to shoot outdoor events there. And over time, we've got the space, if we wanted to maybe build an indoor facility there as well. There's a bunch of existing buildings there. So we've got some infrastructure there ready to go. And obviously it's a great flat surface, and it was used as a golf range prior to us talking about it. So there's actually some overhead shelter as well. So it's unfortunately facing the wrong direction for us as an archery range. So we're probably going to have to move that from one end to the other end. But there's a lot of stuff there that's all ready to go. So what that means is we'll probably be able to get into the venue to some degree with a relatively low cost. So, we're going to mow the lawns, we've got to put some grass down, we've got to relocate the overhead stuff. But essentially the venue is almost ready to go. So hopefully with a relatively small investment, we can get to the stage where we're shooting. Some of the thoughts we're thinking about also, though, is that there's a couple of buildings there that might be able to facilitate a shop. So one of the things we're thinking about is that if we had a shop down there, we might be able to lease that out. And through that, firstly, get some revenue into archery, but also provide a shop facility down there and potentially an on-site full-time archery shop that could do servicing on bows and all sorts of other cool stuff. So, this stuff's all in the early stages and is going to develop over time. But that's sort of where we're at on that venue. The other venues that we're looking at is that some of you that have been around archery for quite some time may remember that there was we used to shoot out at the Pines sporting facility out at, I think it's Jeps Cross. So that, interestingly enough, has come back up as an option. But at this stage, there's also a competing priority around that one that Cressy Archery Club, Cressy Bowman, look like they're going to get chucked out of their current facilities.
That's not good.
So, no, certainly not good for them. But I think at this stage, one of the options is that Cressy may potentially take on that location. So at this stage, it's still in the mix in terms of what Archery SA might look at, but that probably will probably go in that direction if that's the way things pan out. So that's the options we're looking at. In terms of indoor, there is also an indoor facility at the Pines that may be in play for us, and then there's the netball centre down at Mile End, which is also in play. But those are even less developed at the moment. They're on our agenda. We're talking to people about it, and that's sort of where we're at the moment. So still very early, but we'll keep people posted, and we'll obviously as things develop, we'll make some more concrete plans.
So one of the things that some people are a little nervous of is that a state ground could end up competing against other clubs.
Yeah.
So, obviously it's just up the road from Southern Wales. And, I mean, is the intention that it's going to run as a club or more as a business concern, or like, what's your thinkings around, how that should be functioning?
Yeah, look, at this stage, I think it's still a work in progress. Certainly, we are mindful that we don't want it to compete with clubs. So, in terms of how we put that structure together, that would certainly be a factor in our planning. But the other thing which we're trying to do is to establish some sort of permanent presence at the location. So that may involve come try type events or something like that as part of that process. But we're still working through a lot of the, how do we do that? And obviously, how do we do that in a way that doesn't impact the clubs too much? So yeah, I think it's a watch this space at the moment, but certainly we are mindful of the fact that we don't want to cannibalise clubs in the process.
Which is a good thing
Yeah.
from our perspective. And
yeah.
look, often a lot of people get quite concerned about, when things are changing and things are coming in. I mean, I'm always of the opinion that, it is what it is and you just make it work. And look, I don't think there's much of a drama that's coming in. I think there's two separate things that are going to be there. And I think there's some great advantages in there too, particularly if there's clout, because clout's one of those.
Exactly.
Clout's one of those ones that, most people want to try and practice, but for the vast majority of clubs, it's just not possible. I mean, we've got a big ground, but we've got, it's an unknown on the other side. So it's not really big enough to do clout. I know, a lot of the other places, I think it's Eden. You mostly got trees around. So you might have the area, but you don't have a clearing for it.
Eden, about the longest you can shoot is 60 meters. So
yeah. So it would be great to have, some access for shooters to do, to be able to come and, visit, try, pay, I mean, whatever the thing is. But trying to have those practices is hard.
I think you're exactly right. I think, providing, there's a lot of clubs that don't have access full time to their grounds, so they can only get access on a particular day. I'm incredibly lucky, but I'm a member of Adelaide and Eden, so it means that I can, COVID excluded, I can go and shoot whenever I want. But I know a lot of clubs don't have that as a facility. The other thing, obviously, is it provides potentially somewhere that country clubs can come to as well. So we're hoping that there's some accommodation around that area. So there's potential that there'd be more access. We can organise events and that have accommodation close by and that sort of stuff as well. So I know everybody wants to know what it's going to look like and how it's going to be, but even in our best scenario, this is probably going to take us the best part of the next 18 months before we're really in full swing on this thing. So we're hopeful that we'll get access to it in the early part of next year, and then we can start to form up some of these, how does it all work and those sort of things. And I think certainly, building out forums like the President's Forum and those sorts of things are a really good opportunity for us to get feedback from the clubs as that develops. Because I think, really what we want to do is to build a capability that will benefit archery more broadly, will hopefully, raise the profile of the sport in the region, allow us to do a lot more, and therefore hopefully benefit all of the clubs along the way. But you're right, certainly access to some specialised training capabilities that aren't necessarily in all of those clubs is a really important outcome.
Absolutely. And I'm just trying to look on the chat here. I've got a few different things going on because I'm pivoting from not being able to have the video streaming like I set up, which would have been really easy to pivot into this, but that's okay. We work with things. We are in a time of constant change, aren't we? Toby says that it sounds like a great idea. Mark is looking for, he's saying there's a 200 by 400 meter area, that's massive. So that's good. Kate's asking, do you have any thoughts moving forwards on how we, and I must admit, I should read these before I read them out to you, but it's always good to go for it. If they start swearing, I'll cut them out, I promise. We've got to keep it family friendly. Do you have any thoughts moving forward on how we can fill state teams again? Obviously once COVID is over. So There's an interest, and I've got to say, COVID's put a kibosh on a lot of this stuff at the moment, hasn't it?
It has put a kibosh on a lot of things, and I think I suppose the question is, how do we fill state teams when our criteria is that we have to participate in a number of events throughout the year. We've thought about that as a board. Obviously, we don't have to worry about it at the moment, but I think we're probably going to go down some sort of raw score type approach, where we just simply look at rankings, current rankings as the criteria for that. But it got discussed. Obviously, with COVID sort of coming back on the scenes, it sort of got put back on the back burner. But that was sort of where we were heading at the time. So not a definitive answer, but I think probably we're going to obviously have to rely on looking at people's net ratings as the criteria.
And look, it's always going to be hard, isn't it? Because none of us expected what was going to happen. It's not like it's just gone, well, have a week off and you'll be fine. I'm not talking about the recent one. I mean, the previous one that we had to go through. Excuse me. And obviously then to put Victoria into into a lockdown for over 100 days, and that obviously affects their sport as well. There's a big knock-on effect for everybody, not just our state, but for everybody for this. And really, 2020, we can almost just write it off. I think in the future we'll just go 2018, 2019, 2021, and if anybody asks about it, it'll be the year that shall not be named.
I sincerely hope you're right, Mark. But I suppose what I'm a little bit worried at the moment is how we're looking for 2021. So, and I think from Kate's question, that probably is where she's thinking as well. And I think there's still a lot of unknowns. Obviously, we've got to get to the stage where we've actually got interstate competition, and I think once we get through this, it sounds like Victoria is getting close to being able to unlock, and so hopefully going into next year, we've actually got at least national rankings back on the equation, and certainly as we get into the back end of the year, I know there's certainly a number of events at an international and a regional level that people are very interested in, and I don't have any direction. I've actually got there's an RGB president's session that's happening, I think, next week, where hopefully we'll get a bit of an update on what's happening at the Archery SA level. But certainly, we're starting to think about that, but there's still a long way to go before we're going to be into state or national competition.
Absolutely, and it's hard, isn't it? I mean, like it's hard to make decisions based upon something you don't know. And
it varies so quickly. I mean, look at the we were going to run this Vets in Sport thing this weekend, and it was all looking great, and literally with 24 hours notice, it all went to a big mess.
Yeah, and actually, that's a good point. I've got a couple of more messages on here. The big field is good. The driving next door is private property. Mark suggesting virtual state teams for 2020. Maybe 2021 will be good for virtual state teams. The voice is gone.
Sorry, Mark. I just had somebody phone in over the top of you, so apologies.
No, that's all right. That's all good. I thought you were going, it's gone, it's broke. just to cap that one off. But let's talk. I'll say COVID, but let's not talk that so much. But let's talk first of all about the veterans one. I know that it's been cancelled. It hasn't been cancelled. Sorry.
Yes, it has. Nothing's on tomorrow.
We have postponed it. To the next time. Yes. That's the one. We've got to use our words carefully. It's being planned for early next year instead. That was going to be a good event. That was getting quite excited, wasn't it? I mean, tell us about it.
I think we had it was about 120 registrations on last count, and obviously we still had a few days to go before we pulled the pin. So the event was looking really good. It was a combination, obviously, the vets themselves and their families coming along. We had a whole bunch of things they could do. Some of them were archery related, some of them weren't. But in terms of archery specific stuff, we had a come try session that was integrated into it, so they had a chance to shoot a few arrows. We were going to have a couple of people doing demonstrations of archery, and then obviously for the clubs to come along and talk to people around how they could gain access to things. I hope you're still there, Mark, because you've just disappeared off my screen. But
yeah, I think I've come back now. Yeah, sorry, camera's turning it off.
Yeah, so at this stage, the likely date at the moment being discussed is the 7th of March as a rerun date. So keep that in your diaries. I think it's really important. This is about all of the clubs coming together as well. So certainly now we've got a bit more time. One of the things that I don't think a lot of the clubs realised when we put this together was that Archery SA was paying the bills for us to do all sorts of things. And so, as a club, really would encourage you guys to think of something creative to do and bring that along. So it doesn't just have to be, somebody sitting on a stand handing out brochures. It can actually be pretty much anything you like. So have a think about it, and certainly be great to have you involved in it.
And we've got Tanya saying that it's former archers who are ex-Navy. I believe it's not just it's all armed forces. So it's not
Correct.
just the armies, the army, and the Navy, all the defence forces.
Absolutely. Yep.
Now there was an email. I'm not going to put you on the spot here because I can't remember, but they need to email Archery Australia, I believe. Somebody was sorting that out
to register for it.
To register.
No, I don't have the Archery address. Sorry, the email address. It was not an Archery Australia or an Archery SA email address. It was I think the veterans. No, sorry, you're going to have to go back to the form.
It was. I mean, I'm going to make a note. I'm going to put it out on our Facebook page for the new one, just to say that it has been cancelled or it's been postponed, and it's coming up again. So if you do know anybody, any ex armed forces, give them a shout for this because it's a good deal. They also get to have their equipment paid for as well, so they can rock up and pretty much say, I want the whatever compound bow it is, or the long bow, crossbow. Obviously, being biased, I'd say the crossbow's the best for that one. But they have all their gear paid for. That they can have help with membership. So it's a really good deal, and that's about, as you said, trying to get them back into the community and helping them find community. Because we found out that people when they're involved with community. It helps them settle. It's good for our mental health, which,
absolutely,
hence the reason why we're doing this is just to try and keep the community going and, make sure that people have got some sort of contact with sport, even though it's not happening.
Sure.
So now I've been in a meeting all morning from 9 o'clock through to literally just before I started this, near enough. And now sport. You said that we've got an update on what's happening with sport.
Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, the situation at the moment is, unfortunately, they haven't opened up community sport. So at this stage, indoor and outdoor archery is still on the can't do it list. So obviously they're still doing the contact tracing around that pizza bar. So that pizza bar, it's going to be always known now as that pizza bar, isn't it?
Yeah.
So look,
you got a feel for them, haven't you?
Well, I don't know. Yes. Anyway,
moving on quickly.
Moving on. Yes. No. So look, at this stage, the update is we have no update other than it doesn't appear that we're coming fully out of lockdown and back to archery next week. So we're still going to be probably a week or two away.
Yeah. So basically, we've almost come back into the restrictions that were put on Monday, which was no sport, no getting out and about, and but you can go and walk your dog, and you can go to work now.
And you can play golf, which is really annoying.
You can play golf.
Yes.
I think we should go and play archery golf.
Well, there's that one too.
It's on a golf course. We'll go to, I don't know. I got Bel Air. There you go. There's a good one. Oh no, they shut Bel Air, didn't they? Yes. There's a few local ones around. I don't know if anyone's played archery golf. Apparently, it's pretty good fun. But
I haven't tried it.
That's From my understanding is that you shoot towards the goal, and once you get within certain levels of the hole, it's counted as a shot. You don't have to get it in the hole at the end. But certainly something I'd like to have it.
Sure.
Just a note, it was short notice for the Victoria. Victoria, it was a short notice for the veteran one, but next year is good because we've got plenty of time now with that.
Got plenty of time to plan. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dad can get involved now, from what I can see. So that's fantastic.
Good.
So obviously COVID stuff. I mean, that's been a big issue between a lot of the clubs, and I know when we shoot on Saturday. So for us, that was that called it on a day. There was always that hope it was going to go. I contacted a couple of people just to say, what's going on, and they said we're still figuring it through. And I know there was a lot of hope that perhaps maybe tomorrow would be the opening up again, but obviously we're going to have to wait for a little bit longer, which is it's a little bit disappointing. But patience is always good. I'd rather have that than COVID going rampant and ending up like Victoria or worse, the UK or the US. So
yeah, no, agree totally.
So we'll see. It's a wait and see. Let's just talk about bows for a moment then. So let's leave the corporate stuff around. Let's just sort of move it a little bit more personal. So you chose a compound bow, did you say earlier?
I did.
So why did you choose it? What drew you to that?
It was always going to be a compound bow. I remember very clearly my son and I showing up at Eden Hills for our day, and we were handed this recurve bow, and both of us looked at it and just went, we want one of those guys over there are using. And so it was always a compound. I literally came off my beginner's course and went straight down to the shop and put in my order for a compound bow.
Yep. And what do you shoot?
Well, I started off shooting Hoyt, but I'm now a Matthews man. So
okay.
Pretty much got rid of all my Hoyt gear. I also, in the process, I started off shooting left-handed because I'm left-eye dominant.
Okay.
But unfortunately damaged my elbow reasonably early in my archery career and had to make the choice of either stopping archery for 12 months or changing to right-handed. So I chose to go right-handed, and it's worked out really well for me. So
magic.
I've been able to transition pretty well.
Yeah, that's good.
So yes.
And have you tried any other bows? So you did recurve, but have you tried any others?
I haven't tried anything. I should probably spend a bit of time and actually give it a go of some of those things, but no, I haven't.
Because I think we've got to get you into crossbow. I mean, that was the so somebody once said many moons ago, and this isn't true, by the way, but somebody said many moons ago that crossbow's really good for old archers that can't shoot anymore.
What are you
obviously
saying?
Not obviously not true. As I said earlier, this is obviously not true.
I can't shoot.
I was just thinking from that 12-month ban that you were talking about, and I'm going to say I'm not old, and I shoot crossbows. So obviously broke the mold there as well.
But I must admit, I have asked a few questions of the crossbowers down at Southern Vales as I'm shooting next to them, and it has sparked my interest to just have a go at least. But I'm pretty happy with my compound as well.
Yeah. And so you said your sons have they come back and shot since you've carried on, or
my son? I only have one. No, just generally moved on. Wasn't that interested. Yeah. He has a passion for quirky sports, so he's now moved on to fencing. So. Oh
wow.
So he's tends to find the unusual wherever he can.
Yeah. Now I'm just having a quick look down through here.
Well, just while you're doing that, so one other initiative that we're looking for next year is I really want to start a club level indoor comp. So what I'd love to see is hopefully a weekly event where clubs come together and compete against each other. And we're trying to do it in a way that will allow all bow types to participate. So we don't obviously want it to be a compound only thing.
Yep.
So we're looking at ways of handicapping it so that we can have a bare bower competing against a compounder and still do that or a long bower against the compounder or whatever, but do that in a way that works well.
Yep.
And the other thing which I really want to focus on is I want it to be a club initiative. So it's a work in progress. I don't have anything specific to share with you on it, but I think there's been a fair amount of interest from people. So once we get hopefully a venue, then we can start to think about how we might do it. But I'm looking to try and get something going for winter time for next year.
Yep, and I've got to say, we've talked at our club about a league as well, of some sort, and it's that's all it's really done is gone for discussions. It is a great idea actually, because it gets people involved. That because what's the nice way? We've got a really big gap between you start archery, and you can pick up the bow, and you can almost make a bow fire to begin with. A little bit of practice, and you can get it somewhere near the middle. Then someone tells you have to move it back from 10 meters, which, who come up with that idea? You can, obviously you can practice and to do any sort of competitions, whether it be field or, target or anything like that. You've got to make sure that you're shooting at least 60 meters and you're comfortable with doing that. Now there's a big gap between shooting as a beginner and ending up with, end up actually getting to the point where you can compete. Even if you got someone that's a natural, you still got period of time. And that idea of having a league really does bring that, that forward, so that people have got something to do in the middle. But also, because I don't know about you, but I always feel, when I've got someone to challenge myself against, I push myself. But I don't push myself if there's not someone there that I can compete against. So, that's I think that's a great idea.
Well, it's still a lot of work to do on it, but again, it's on the agenda for this coming year to try and get something going. There's a lot of complexity in it. You've got to deal with the fact that you've got to have consistent participation. You've got to have a way that you can do it where you've got all different bow types and different clubs involved and that sort of stuff. So we've still got to work on it, but that's what we're thinking about.
That's fabulous. Another question: what sort of policies, or if has there been any discussions about female participation in the sport? I know we've talked about it in club level, but
look, it certainly is an area. Interesting enough, before I was getting involved in the president side of things, I was looking at the membership side of things, and certainly there's some interesting demographics around female participation in the sport. So if you look at participation at a state level in the junior ranks, we see pretty even participation between males and females. And obviously, as you get into 20s and 30s, that participation drops off, and it improves a little bit towards the older part of the process. So certainly there's some challenges. Obviously, I'm not trying to sound sexist, but certainly female participation is probably impacted to some degree by responsibilities in the family, and that obviously tends to sit with women more so than it does with men. And I'm not endorsing that or anything. I'm just saying that's the reality, that women tend to take on more responsibility in that area, and I think that's probably reflected in membership during those years. So I think certainly it's an area that we want to focus on. We've put a fair amount of interest into making sure that we provide a forum that deals with that, and certainly things like leagues and shooting indoor during the week, I think are things that maybe are easier for people with responsibility around families to participate in, because it's not the day at the archery club for the weekend that is sometimes quite hard, particularly with sport responsibilities and everything else. So I think there's a fair amount of understanding of that, but actually that gives me a good opportunity to do a bit of a promo on that as well. So in terms of our board structure, we've got obviously a bunch of elected memberships that sort of responsibilities that we fill through an election. But the board has two positions that we can nominate to our board. And so certainly one of the things that we would be really would encourage is, if we've got any females out there who would like to be on our board, certainly that's an area that we would love to get some input from the archery community in terms of how we can do things better. Certainly it's an area of focus for us, and we'd certainly welcome some inputs from the archery community on how we can do things to make the sport more. I'm trying to figure the right word. Sorry, but well, certainly encourage participation. So,
and it's
please,
hard, isn't
please
it?
contact me if you're interested.
Absolutely, and it's interesting, is it? Because I mean, you look at certain areas and certain sports, and some sports are more dominated by one sex or the other, and in certainly, and I'm not going to say that men can do something that women can't, but certainly competing against men against women, sometimes men do have an advantage. So you want to have a female league, but then splitting that into a female league, you then you need enough participation to actually make it worthwhile, otherwise you don't have it there. And it was probably worth noting that archery is one of those few sports that you can compete. You do have to you're not fighting anyone, you're not jumping on top of anyone. It's not football where there might be a disadvantage between the two. With archery, it's an individual sport. You can pick it, you can pick a bow up. There's nothing to stop anybody from being able to do that, and particularly with and it depends on how old kids are as well, because I know I have issues with trying to balance kids as well. But once they get to the point where they get a bit older, they can come and participate as well. So again, a lot of other sports, you have your juniors, but you don't have juniors and adults playing together. Because that's just stupid. It might be fun for some of them, but it really doesn't go down well. So, archery is one of those few sports that actually, you could be quite universal for everybody.
Yeah, look, I think there's little reason why we shouldn't have equitable participation right across the board. As I said, anecdotally, but I think obviously. Responsibility for children is obviously something that still impacts people's ability to participate, and that applies equally. But it seems in reality, it's something that affects female participation more so. And I think the big challenge there is trying to take a full day out of somebody's time when you've got sporting commitments on weekends and that sort of stuff is the big thing that really stops that from happening. But I think it's also really about something the clubs really need to focus on as well. So I know Eden, which is my home club, has a fantastic community spirit to it, and there's certainly a lot of families there where the kids are shooting and the parents are shooting. And I think Southern Vales, I'm not involved so much on your weekends, but certainly from afar, it looks like you guys also have a very strong community involvement as well. So. I think that's a fantastic spirit to have in a club, and I think that certainly goes a long way to making sure that all members of the family are welcome, and hopefully will help to make that a little bit easier. But I think the other thing obviously is shorter form stuff that maybe people can get involved in is probably the other area.
Absolutely, and we want to try and make it as easy as possible. But as someone reminded me the other day, we are dealing with weapons. So therefore we do, we've got to have some sort of entry accreditation before we come in. Because
you crossbows are the problems. The rest of us are just using sporting equipment.
That's right. And of course, we're just having fun. So, unlike the other serious people, but look, John, this has been absolutely fantastic. I'm quite conscious of the time because I said that, we'd be 15 minutes.
Yeah, you told me you'd be 15 minutes. We've gone an hour.
15, 20 minutes and we'll put on Pat Coughlin. And look, we do have a video of Pat Coughlin because I've had to switch over to using Zoom to go live with. I had to try and figure out a way of how do I deal with that. So Pat Coughlin's interview is now on our Facebook page. So anybody who is looking for a hit, we're going to have double whammy now because we've had a chance to talk to yourself, John, which has been fantastic.
I was kind of hoping that you weren't going to screen the Pat Coughlin video so that I could tell Pat that I managed to bump him off the video list.
Well, you have kind of. So when you see him, you say, look, it was just too much. We had too much to talk about, and we just put you aside. It's and Pat, it's not. I don't know if I can switch. I can't edit this. I don't think. But Pat, it's not. I've got your video up on Facebook, and it just took a while for it to download because it was a rather large file to download. So it is there now. So anybody that has joined and come to watch the Pat Coughlin video, it is on our Facebook page. It is there live. I'm going to put it hopefully on our YouTube site as well. So if you want to go there, and if there's anybody that isn't following our pages and isn't following the Facebook page, please do so. We try to put out some content for everybody, not just for our own members. So it's always worth doing that. But just before we call it a day, any last comments, anything that you want to talk to the archery community about?
Now, look, I think my biggest point is I really want to be accessible to all archery members. So please, my email address is president@archerysa.org.au. Please send me an email. I'd love to get your feedback. I'd love to know what you think is important. And if you've got some questions, please ask us, me or any of the other committee members. We're more than willing to help to explain whatever it is that you think you would like more information on. By all means, give us an email, and we'll try and do our best to help.
Beautiful. And just I've got to thanks John Vinehall. Thank you, John. Great job as well. So much appreciated for that. And thank you to everyone that's listened, and share it with everyone else out there. And you never know, we might be doing this next week as well.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much, John, for your your participation.
Lovely. I'll get back to the tractor now.
Beautiful. Good luck.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.